Mark Zuckerberg was right to fire Meta's fact checkers. We've got an article from Reason here saying exactly that, obviously, because I'm reading this article. The fact of the matter is that the fact checkers have just been too politically biased, says the Meta CEO. Now, we almost hate to say, we told you so. Except, of course, we don't, because we were right, you were wrong. Why were you lying? Anyone could see that this was the case. That the fact checkers here were not checking facts. They were trying to maintain and create a political narrative to advantage one side over the other. And they use the position of fact checkers to do it. A new era is dawning in Meta. CEO Mark Zuckerberg announced on Tuesday that third-party fact-checking organizations would no longer have the power to suppress disfavored speech on Facebook. Now, is it still called Facebook, or is it all just called Meta? I honestly don't know because I'm not on Facebook, and I don't think anyone's on Facebook. This is another side of the issue here, which is Facebook's not doing that great. Meta, the parent company, Mark Zuckerberg, they're doing probably quite fine. But Facebook as a sort of social network, social media platform is apparently doing quite poorly. So it doesn't really make any sense for him to be politically biased, to be, advantaging one side or the other, taking sides on these types of things, because it's really hurting his bottom line when, a whole, more than half of the population thinks, nah, you're doing stuff wrong, so I'm not going to deal with you. In his video announcing the changes, Zuckerberg conceded that moderators working at his social media properties, Facebook and Instagram, felt pressured after Donald Trump's 2016 win to address mainstream media concerns about the spread of alleged misinformation online. He now believes that their efforts to fix this supposed issue caused more problems than they solved. Yeah. After Trump's first got elected in 2016, the legacy media wrote nonstop about how misinformation was a threat to democracy. Yeah, they did. I remember that. I remember that we were supposed to forget that for the last 4 years, but yeah, I remember that. We tried in good faith to address those concerns without becoming the arbiters of truth. But the fact checkers have just been too politically biased and have destroyed more trust than they've created, especially in the US. Now, the interesting thing here is I went to a couple of other websites to see how they were viewing this same issue. The Associated Press was like, this is another bow to Trump. They're bowing to Trump. This is, yeah, they're licking the boot of Trump, Mark Zuckerberg. I don't think Mark Zuckerberg needs to lick the boot, kiss the shoes of Trump. I don't think he needs to do that at all. Meta, Facebook, and all this kind of stuff. If he really wanted to, I'm sure he could take that company to another country. And, it would be fair to say that maybe not America, but certainly San Francisco, LA, California needs Facebook way more than Facebook needs California. So I don't really think Mark Zuckerberg is in a tizzy about sucking up to the new president. I just think he's actually had a legitimate, sort of political turnaround here. Zuckerberg also detailed plans to describe the platform's deprioritization of political topics and rein in automatic filters, a category of moderation that he says is prone to error. It means we're going to catch less bad stuff, but we'll also reduce the number of innocent people's posts and accounts that we accidentally take down. Accidentally? Sure. Let's be generous. These changes are wildly positive. This is the editorial. It's also heartening that Zuckerberg seems to understand precisely what had gone wrong and why. The company made attempts to satisfy both mainstream media institutions and even government agencies. Yep, particularly when it came to controversial political topics like COVID-19. What moderators soon discovered is that this is impossible. There is no end to the amount of speech suppression that is desired by censorship-inclined entities. Yep. I mean, look, if it's your job to police speech, you're going to find speech to police. And maybe initially there is some core, horrible, terrible speech that is so awful and inflammatory and harmful that people agree, yeah, okay, police it, fine. If you do that and then it's all gone, you are out of a job. And maybe you find some other speech that's, very close, but not quite up to the threshold. Well, we need to be able to police this too. This is basically just as bad. Yeah, you're going to find speech to police if that's your job. So, kind of difficult to say that the job should exist. Free speech should be free. Politicians in both parties dragged Zuckerberg before the U.S. Congress to answer for a vast array of alleged sins. The end of democracy, the abuse of children, tensions with Russia, and more. What unites legacy media institutions with politically motivated speech hunters in government is growing frustration over their own loss of control with respect to guardrails of acceptable speech. Thanks to social media, these guardrails scarcely exist. By inveighing constantly against Facebook, the old guard hoped to reinstall them. This was the theme of my 2021, but I'm not gonna. You can chill on your own time. At that time, it was a somewhat controversial thesis. Even the political right was interested in aggressively regulating big tech or breaking up the companies entirely. 4 years later, thanks to exposés like Matt Taibbi's Twitter files and my own Facebook files. Let me actually look up here. Who's this? Robbie Suave. Okay. I wasn't sure if this is, Matt Schellenberger or Matt Taibbi or whatever. I'm not entirely sure who it is. Anyway, the public is more aware of the role that explicit government pressure played in enacting the regime of censorship, which again, we do know. We know that, the FBI straight up told them, hey, make sure this stuff doesn't see the light of day. And whether you think that's politically motivated or they actually had some legitimate reason to think that, the government asking / telling a private company to do a thing, and then the private company was like, yeah, hell yeah, let's do it. Very happily. Not a great precedent to set. So this is good. It's good that we're bucking the trend and we're not just continuing down in the same established path that leads to less free speech and more authoritarian government intervention. Even if, or I suppose in many people's cases, especially if the people in charge are not the ones you like. This should be good. This should be good news that Trump's FBI, ostensibly, will not be able to do this. That's, the very least, this is how I view this, is, the government / private companies are not going to be doing this sort of speech regulation as much. This does not mean that tech executives were blameless with respect to the moderation decisions that ensued, but it should mean that public ire is better directed at government bureaucrats who represented the Centers for Disease Control, the FBI, the Department of Homeland Security, and the White House. Needless to say, the third-party fact-checking organizations that will lose their clout as a result of Zuckerberg's proposed changes are none too pleased. Boo-hoo. Indeed, I shed tears for thee. In a New York Times article about the news, with a characteristically snarky headline, Meta says fact-checkers were the problem. Fact-checkers rule that false. That could have been written by the Babylon Bee. I like it. The Poynter Institute, one of Facebook's official fact-checking organs, protests that Meta, and Meta alone, have the power to take down content. This is technically true. Technically, my favorite kind of true. Technically true. But the fact-checkers knew exactly what the deal was. Facebook gave them official status as approved verifiers of information and explicitly stated that moderators would remove content consistent with the verifiers' recommendations. What? We hired you to do this thing and you did it? And then we said, okay. We basically just had a line of code that just immediately did that. Technically, yes, we could have not done that, but I mean, we paid you to do this. We're going to do it. Said recommendations were frequently misguided. In December 2021, a fact checker called Science Feedback flagged something I had written for Reason as false information. As a result, the article's image was blurred and its distribution was presumably impacted. Yeah, probably. Well, they don't shadow ban. That's not a thing. We don't do that. As Science Feedback later conceded, their fact check was erroneous. My article was not. The decision was eventually reversed. TV host John Stossel had a similar experience. Yeah, this is where he was referring to climate change, climate data, and these things where he said that there has not been an increase of like damaging hurricanes and these types of things. You know, like big, large storms and these types of things. There's not been an increase in these, catastrophic weather events, which is just true. It's just, just borne out by the data. It's just a true fact. But yeah, he got beat up for it. It is reassuring to hear Zuckerberg acknowledge issues with this form of fact-checking. The CEO said he plans to launch a new system in line with X's community notes, a crowdsourced form of verification that allows all users to weigh in, more closely mirroring the Wikipedia approach. Open source is always good. Even the Times begrudgingly admits that researchers have found the program can be effective when paired with other moderation strategies. Oh, you can feel they're saying it through gritted teeth. In Zuckerberg's video, he concluded by noting that the First Amendment's protections for free speech have enabled the U.S. tech sector to thrive. I don't know if that's technically the tech sector. I think that has more to do with, the sort of American entrepreneurial spirit, which I guess you can tie to free speech, but I don't think free speech is necessarily in there. Contrast that with much of the rest of the world. Yeah, other places have, I guess other places do have freedom of speech, although a lot of times it's not as enshrined in law. And then, there's definitely places that, say they have free speech, but they don't, like the UK. Europe has an ever-increasing number of laws, institutionalizing censorship and making it difficult to build anything innovative there. Latin American countries have secret courts that can order companies to quietly take things down. China has censored our apps from even working in the country. The only way that we can push back on this global trend is with the support of the U.S. government. And that's why it's been so difficult over the past 4 years when even the U.S. government has pushed for censorship. Yep, rough stuff. This is a key admission. The U.S. is a driver of tech innovation because its government protects free speech. I think we're putting a little bit too much emphasis on the freedom of speech thing. First Amendment, while important and very good and, good for the society in general, I don't know if it's necessarily tech. I don't know if it's innovation. I don't know if that's the thing that is freedom of speech is the thing that, drives the sort of American entrepreneurial spirit. I don't think that's true. I think it's, sort of part of the water that irrigates the farm of, the American spirit and entrepreneurialism, but it is not the reason. Said protections are imperfect, but they are stronger here than anywhere else. I don't know if that's true. I believe that is probably accurate in terms of enshrined in law, but there's definitely a lot of people that would argue that, yeah, you've kind of got more freedom other places abroad. Now, maybe that's changing. Maybe the U.S. will bounce back to being, the sort of the freest country in the world, which would be great. I would love it, and I think it would be good for, everyone in America and the world if that were the case. But I don't know if they're technically right now, really, in terms of like data on the ground, stronger here than anywhere else. They are worth maintaining and even strengthening so that the U.S. can continue to be the most prosperous and technologically advanced country in the world. I agree. I think the U.S. being country number one is best. Is best for the world in general. If other countries can do it better, take the spot, take the crown. It's yours. I'm happy for that to be the case, but you got to actually do it better. You don't get the crown by doing it different and worse. All right. With that being said, good luck in all your endeavors. Thank you for your time and attention, and I shall say farewell for now.